It's your boy Nature, aka Nature Gang. Alright, so we back for another video. Alright, so on this video we're going to be talking about when is the best time to trade. Okay, when can you trade in Forex as far as the time and which sessions are moving the best, when sessions move the best, when the sessions start to slow down. So we're going to go through that real fast, and then in one video we're going to go through everything. Okay, so it's going to just be quick. Alright, now that you know what Forex is and you know why you should trade it, and who makes up the Forex market, it's about time when you learn when you can trade. Okay, so to learn about different Forex trading sessions, it's time for you to learn about different Forex trading sessions: the Sydney, the Tokyo, London, New York. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on, I'm just, some of this stuff is, isn't, that serious. You can make money trading when the market moves up, and you can make money when the market moves down. But you will have a very difficult time trying to make money when the market doesn't move at all. And believe us, there will be times when the market is as still as the victims of Medusa. So the Tokyo session, this lesson will help determine when the best time of the day would be to trade. So before looking at the best times to trade, we must look at what the 24-hour day in Forex world looks like. So the Forex market is broken down into 4 major trading sessions: the Sydney session, the Tokyo session, the London session, and Trump's favorite session, which is the New York session. Okay, so historically, the Forex market has 3 peak trading sessions, though. Okay, and these 3 known Forex trading sessions, okay, the traders often focus on one of the 3 trading periods rather than attempt to trade the market 24 hours per day. So traders often focus on one of the other 3, okay, rather than attempting to trade the market 24 hours per day. So these 3 are known as the Forex 3 session system. These sessions consist of the Asian, European, and North American session, which are also called the Tokyo, the London, and New York session. Okay, so some traders prefer to differentiate sessions by the names of the continents. Others traders prefer to use the names of the cities. Okay, so you have Asian, European, and North America, or Tokyo, London, and New York sessions. So that's just a cool trick. That's something cool. Right past this, really. So these right here below are the tables. Right here, other than the weekends, there are 2 public holidays when the entire Forex market is closed: Christmas and New Year's Day. Below the tables, the opening and close time for each sessions. Okay, so for the spring and summer U.S. market, from March to April to October and November, this is the sessions, and times they open and close. So for the Sydney session, it will be 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Local time. Eastern time will be 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Okay, for the Sydney. Okay, it opens at 5 p.m. and closes at 2 a.m. Okay, the best times would be from 10 p.m. Or 7 a.m. Okay, 10 p.m. Very good time when the Sydney session is moving. Tokyo session for local time opens at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Okay, Tokyo session. So best time will be 8 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m. Okay, for the Tokyo session. Okay, so it closes, at 5 a.m., 10 a.m. Best times would be for the Tokyo session at 8 p.m. To about 1 a.m. Okay, so London session for the local time is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It closes at 4 p.m. That's for in London, or the local time for in London and stuff. As far as Eastern time, 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. London session starts to close around 11 a.m. Okay, 12 a.m. London session starts to close. Okay, we have an overlap, between the New York and London session around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. You know, London and New York likes to, overlap around those times. So 3 a.m., 2 a.m. London session. That's when we got in there. That's when we get in our trades. This is the most busiest trading session is the London session. So that opens around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and we know, we're going to ride that out until about, to the New York session. The New York session, opens at 8 a.m. Okay, local time, 8 a.m. New York session closes at 5 p.m. New York session closes at 5 p.m. when the market closes. So 8 a.m. is when New York session opens. Okay, that's when the New York session opens to 5 p.m. Okay, they say the New York session, the best times will be from 8 a.m. That's when it opens. The best times will be from like 10 o'clock a.m. to about like 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Okay, for the New York session. I know it's a little, these charts say a little different, but those are the best times for the New York session, 8 a.m. to about 1 p.m. New York session opens at 8 a.m. London session open at 3 a.m. on here, but my mentor told me London session opens around 2 o'clock, 2:30. That's when the market opens, and then London session starts to close down around like 5, 6 o'clock, as the London sessions waiting for the New York session open at 8 o'clock. Same thing for the fall and winter U.S. That was for the summer and spring. Okay, for U.S. as far as like the times, the local times and stuff, Eastern time. As far as the fall and winter U.S., the local times for the Sydney, they're kind of still the same. Is daylight savings, so I think it's pushed back 1 hour. 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. For Sydney to 8 p.m. This is for the winter time. Tokyo session will be from 7 p.m. to about 12 a.m. Okay, the London session will be from the London session, which is the most busiest session, will be from about 3 a.m., 2 a.m. to about 8 a.m. And New York session will be again from 8 a.m. to about 5 p.m. The busiest time for like the New York session will be from like 10 o'clock. It starts at 8 o'clock. It starts, really booming around 10, 12, 1 o'clock, So actually the open and close times are based on the local business hours, which most business hours starting somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m. local time. So you have daylight saving times. Open to close time will also vary during the months of October and November, March and April, as some countries like the United States, England, Australia shift from daylight savings. So the day of the month and the country shift from daylight savings also vary. So it's confusing. Don't get confused by it though. Still, there's no London session, New York session. Starts, 8 a.m. New York session, London session 2, 3 a.m. So now that you know that, during the summer, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., they're saying the Tokyo session and the London session, they overlap, and also during, the summer times around 8 a.m. and 12 p.m., this is true. The London session and New York session, they overlap around that time. You can find, that's when it's busy. Is when the two currencies are overlapping together. Two sessions are overlapping together. Two sessions. 8 a.m. and around 12 p.m. is when the London session and New York session overlap. So naturally, these are the busiest times during the trading day because there is more volume when two markets are open at the same time. So this makes sense because during these times, the market participants are willing and dealing, which means that there are more money in transferring hands. Okay, so now we're going to look at the average pip movement for major currency pairs during each Forex trading session. So these are the, for Europe, For Euro USD for the Tokyo session, 76, London 114, 192 for New York session. As you can see, the London session is the busiest, followed by the New York session, and then the Tokyo session. Tokyo will be first. That starts around like 10 p.m., 8 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Until the London session. That runs from the 8 p.m. to like 2 a.m. to the London session starts from 2 a.m. to about that runs until into the New York session. It starts at 8 a.m. So the London session GPUSD, for the Tokyo session you get 92 pips. For the London session 127, New York 99, Euro USD JPY 51. For the London, for the Tokyo, USD JPY 66 for the London, and 59 for New York. Aussie USD 77 for Tokyo, London 83, New York 81. New Zealand US dollars 62 in Tokyo. 72 in London and 70 in New York. USD CAD 57 in Tokyo, 96 in London, and 96 in New York. USD SHAF 67 in Tokyo, 102 in London, 83 in New York. Euro JPY 102 in Tokyo, 129 in London, and 107 in New York. GP JPY 118 in Tokyo, 151 in London, and 132 in New York. Aussie JPY 98, 107 and 103 as far as Tokyo, London, and New York. Euro over Great Britain 78 and Tokyo, 61 in London, and 47 in New York. And Euro versus SHAF is 79 in Tokyo, 109 in London, and 84 in New York. So these are the the pip movements in the major currency pairs during each Forex trading session. As you notice, GPUSD, Euro USD, London session are the most volatile. So the London session is the most busiest, where you can get the most pips. Okay, for the currency pairs. The major currency pairs, all the currency pairs are the ones. The major currency pairs are the ones with the USD. And then you have your cross pairs, which is Euro JPY, Great Britain JPY, Aussie JPY, Euro GP, and Euro SHAF. They still move. Some crosses pairs move like the majors, but we will just stick to the majors. From the table you can see that the London session normally provides the most momentum. Notice how some currency pairs have much larger pitch movements than others. So some currency pairs, as you can even see in this picture, you can see the London session is the most volatile session. You can see how some currency pairs like GPY is and JPY is moves more move more pips than any other pair. All right. Following after that is Euro JPY. Then we have GPY. Then we have Great Britain USD and Euro USD right after that. The red is for London, so London's the busiest, then followed by New York, and then Tokyo for each of the currency pairs. Okay, and you can easily get over 150 pips for each of those sessions. Okay, so if you add all those sessions up, that's about 400 or 500 pips you can get in each session, all three sessions. Okay, depending on you and how you trade, and you guys will see how you can maximize on all of that. Cause sometimes I do get in the Tokyo session and ride in the London session and the New York session, and that's you're gonna see more of me trading and explaining that later on. But let's take more in-depth look at each of these sessions as well as their time periods and when the sessions overlap. So we're just gonna ride through this real fast. When the sessions overlap. Okay, so, like I said, a lot of this stuff is, not really that important. Um, Tokyo session sometimes refers to Asian session. Um, you know, Overall, around 20% off Forex trading volume takes place during the Asian session. So about 20% off Forex trading volume takes place during the Asian session. Okay, so the Asian session does have some value, some movement. In the Asian session, Euro USD 56, JPY, Great Britain USD 54, USD JPY 30, Aussie USD 65, Neuro, New Zealand USD 55, USD CAD 39, USD France 40, Euro JPY 57, GP uh, Great Britain JPY 72, Aussie JPY 65, Euro Great Britain 23, and Euros France 30. So as you can see, 20% of all trades are made in the Asian session. Okay, and pairs do move. They do move. Okay, if you know how to get in the Asian session, I said it starts around like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m. Okay, so actions isn't only limited to the Japanese shores. Ton of forex traders, are looking for the Sydney session, the Asian sessions. Okay, the Asian session, it moves. It's more likely that you will see stronger moves. And Asian currency pairs, as far as all the New Zealand and Great Britain. As far as those pairs, they move in the Asian session. So during those times, it's thin liquidity. Most pairs stick within the range. This provides opportunity for short-term trades or potential breakout trades later in the day. So you can get in early, and I usually get in early around these times, and I just ride it throughout all the sessions and maximize as much money as I can. So typically after a big move preceding the New York session, you'll see some consolidation. After New York session is a big move, and you'll see some consolidation. But like a lot of stuff in here, let me see. Let's go to the London session. The Asian session moves about 20%. So now as you know about the Asian market, let's find about the London market. While there are several financial centers around Europe, it is London that is the market participant. So keep your eyes on it. So historically, London always has been the center trade, thanks to its strategic location. So the London session, overlaps with the New York session. So so in no wonder it's considered the forex capital of the world, with thousands of folks making transactions every single minute. About 43% of all forex transactions happen in the London session. So some traders also refer to London session as a European trading session. Okay, so this is the chart of the London session. 83. 82, 36, 60, 64. So it does move, for all the pairs. In the London session, about 43% of all forex transactions happen in the London session. So these, this is a pit value calculating using average of the past data. Take note that these are not absolute values, and they are very depending on liquidity and other market conditions. So, because the London session crosses with two other major trading sessions, London becomes such a key financial center. As far as, a large chunk of forex transactions take place during this time, around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning leads to high liquidity and potential lower transaction costs, lower pip spreads, due to large number of transactions that take place. That's why it's lower pip spreads, because a lot of larger transactions, the most frequency, most liquidated transaction, 43% of traders are in that trade. 20% of traders are in it. The Tokyo session, about 43% of traders, which is the most, is in the London session. So the London trading session is normally the most volatile session. Most trades begin during the London session, and they typically continue until the beginning of the New York session. So volatility tends to die down in the middle of the session, as traders often go off to eat, and wait, or go off to lunch, or waiting for the New York session trading to begin. So trends can sometimes reverse at the end of a London session, as European traders may decide to lock in profit. So it's good to know that which pairs you should trade for the London session, because the volume transactions, that may take place. There are so much liquidity during the European session that's almost any pair can be traded. Of course, it may be best to stick to the majors: Euro USD, Great Britain USD, USD JPY, and USD France, as these normally have the tightest spreads. Also, these pairs that are normally directly influenced by any news reports that come out during, are normally affected by any news reports that come out in the European session. So you can also try the yen crosses for more specifically Euro JPY and GPY, and Great Britain JPY, as these tend to be pretty volatile at those times as well, because these are cross pairs. The spreads might be a little wider though, because they're cross pairs, and it's very volatile with cross pairs. The spreads are a little wider. With the major pairs, the spreads are tighter. Okay, these normally have the tightest spreads. Okay, Euro USD, Great Britain USD, USD JPY, and USD France. Okay, so the spread is, and we'll go over the spread. We already went over the spread a little bit. It's the ask and the bid price. Okay, the next is the New York session. Okay, so the most volatile sessions in the London session is Euro USD, Great Britain USD, USD JPY, and USD France. The London session is just, the most liquidated session is the European session. That's almost any pair can be traded, in the European session around 2-3 o'clock. Any pair can really be traded around that time. About 43% of Forex transactions happen in the London session. Okay, so that's important to know. There is no substitute for hard work. Thomas Edison. So, and we can trade in the New York session. So right after your European traders get back from lunch break, the U.S. session begins at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, as traders start rolling into the office. Just like the Asian and Europe session, the U.S. session has one major financial center that's the market keeps their eyes on. So we're talking about the New York session, the concrete jungle where dreams are made of. About 17% of Forex transactions happen in New York. So some traders also refer to the New York session as the North America trading session. The New York session, there are major financial centers open in North America, as well as such as Toronto and Chicago. Below is a table of the New York session pip range of the major currency pairs. So, Euro USD 77, Great Britain USD 68, then we have 34, 68 for Aussie, New Zealand, 62, CAD 67, 56, France, we have the crosses, all the crosses pairs, 72, 77, 71, 50, and 46. So these are all the major, these are all the, the major currency pairs for New York session, and how they range as far as how many pips you can get. So imagine you combine the Tokyo, the London, and the New York session all together. That's about, you can make about from each pair, you can make about 400 to 500 pips, maybe even more. So depending on your lot size too, that could be about 3,000 or 4,000 a day. So these pip values were calculated using the average of the past data. Take note that these are not the absolute value, and it can vary depending on the liquidity and other market conditions. So here are some tips you should know about the trading, about the New York session, which you're trading in, during the New York session. There is high liquidity during the morning, as it overlaps with the European session, around 8 o'clock. it starts to, that's when the New York session opens, starts to overlap with the European session around like 10 o'clock. Most economic reports are released near the start of the New York session. Remember, about 85% of all trades involve the U.S. dollar, though. So that's why the New York session is very, popping, very volatile. So whenever big time U.S. economic data is released, it has potential to move the market. So once European market closes, sharp liquidity and volatility tends to die down. And during the afternoon, the U.S. session, and during the afternoon, the U.S. session too, it tends to die down. There is very little momentum as far as Friday afternoon. As Asian traders and the European traders, they're watching soccer matches and stuff. It's Friday. Also on Friday, there's a chance of a reversal. So in the second half of the session, as U.S. traders close their position and head off into the weekend, in order to limit exposures to any weekend news. So pay attention to that. Which pairs should you trade? There's a ton of liquidity in both the U.S. and European market, both the New York and London market. It's a ton of liquidity. And they will be open at the same time. Especially when they're open at the same time, when they overlap. It's a ton of liquidity. So you can bet that the banks and multiple national companies are burning at the telephone wires. So this allows you to trade virtually any pair, although it will be best to stick to the majors and minor pairs and avoid those weird ones. Okay, just stick to the major pairs when you first starting off learning how to trade in Forex. Okay, which is all the major pairs have the U.S. dollar on them. Okay, so U.S. dollar is on the other side is majority of the transactions. 85%, so everybody will be paying attention to the U.S. data that is released. Should these reports come in better or worse than expected, it could dramatically shake up the market as the dollar will be jumping up and down. Okay, so we're almost done. Best time to trade in the Forex. Okay, so best time to trade in Forex will be when the Tokyo and London session overlaps. They tend to overlap. Around, for the London and Asian session, they tend to overlap around, I would say about 1 to 2 o'clock. That's when the Tokyo and London session, Tokyo session opens around 10 o'clock. So until about 2 a.m. So around that time, and the London session starts around 2, 3 a.m. So Tokyo and London session, the overlap will be around 1 a.m. to about 3 a.m. And then for the New York session and the London session, the overlap liquidity will be around 3 a.m. until about 3 p.m. Okay, London time 3 a.m. Okay, opens at 8 a.m. So the overlap between New York session and the London session will be from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, so this is where you can get a lot of pips, as this is the busiest times of the days where traders from two largest financial centers or sessions, the London and New York session, begin to duke it out. So during this period, we can see some big moves, especially when the news reports from the U.S. and Canada are released, or from the U.S. and the London session are released. The market also hits late news coming out of Europe. So if the trends were established during the European session, we could see the trends continuing in the U.S. trading session. That's why I say if you're in the London session, you might as well just let it just ride out to the U.S. Trading session. Sometimes, like they said, at the end of the London session, it could be London session could be over and it could be a whole new. Because it's a whole new session. The New York session is a whole new session. The London session could be over. It could be a trend reversal. So pay attention to that. Also, but when the London session and the London session was the European session, is going in your favor. You could see the trend continuing into the U.S. trading session. And decides to jump in, and then U.S. traders decide to jump in and then establish their position after reading up what happened earlier in the day. So, that's about it. As far as the banks and other financial institutions, they use daily rates and set their currency exchange rates, which in turn determine the price used and incorporate foreign sustained transactions, but you know, that's really about it. The Europe trading may be closing their positions as their day ends, which could lead some choppy moves right before lunchtime into the U.S. session. So that's why sometimes you want to get out of the London session, and I will ride it out. Sometimes it does trend at the end of a London session and going into the New York session. It is a new trend, because it's a new session. I have seen that in the market. The market could do anything. So the best days of the week, we're almost done to trade. So now you know that the London session is the busiest out of all other sessions. But there are also certain days when the market tends to show more momentum. So know the best days of the week to trade in Forex. So below is the chart average pip of the range for the major pair for each of the weeks. So these are the weeks: Euro USD, Sunday, Monday, 69 Sunday. So Sunday is Sunday, the main traders, you can trade on Sunday around like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Sunday. The market opens at 5 o'clock p.m. Sunday. And you can get in for Sunday if you want to trade, but it's not really the busiest days to trade. Monday too, Monday, traders are still getting things are still getting things ready for the following week. So Monday still is it starts moving on Monday. So Sunday and Monday are not the busiest, and Friday is not the busiest either, but it still moves on Friday. But the major periods for each week is Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Those are the most busiest when Euro USD, Great Britain USD, any of the major periods are moving. As you can see, on Sunday and Monday, they're not moving like they are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We got 142, 136, 145, 144 on Friday. So Friday does move too. Just busy, but Sunday and Monday, it's like, still Monday is good, Sunday is still good too. But the busiest is Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So in the middle of the week is, you can see the most, momentum. So as you can see the chart above, best to trade during the middle of the week, since this when the most action happens, okay? When the most action happens in the middle of the week for each of these pairs. This is for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The pairs are moving around these times. Great Britain USD, even the major pairs, they move around these times. Great Britain, JPY, WOW on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 213, 179, 270. So, I use Great Britain USD is like one of my favorite pairs. They move, and Friday moves good on Fridays too. So, in the middle of the week, so as you see the chart above, the best time it's the middle of the week, since this is when the most action happens. Friday's usually busy until 12 p.m. Eastern, and then the market pretty much drops dead until it closes at 5 p.m. Eastern time. This means we only work half days on Friday. So based on all these, we learned that we learn about the busiest and best days of the week to trade in Forex. The busiest times are usually the best times to trade, since they have high vitality and tends to present more opportunities. So manage your time wisely. The Forex market is open 24 hours daily. It closes at 5 p.m., but it starts right back up. So Monday through Friday, the Forex market is open 24/7. As far as you can trade on Saturday and Sunday too, but that's for stocks like Bitcoin and stuff like that. You can trade Bitcoin, and stocks doesn't stop moving on over the weekends, but the Forex market closes over the weekends. You can't trade any of the major currency pairs. So it does mean that the action, it does mean though, since the market is open 24 hours, it does mean that the action happens all the time. But you want to get some sleep. You want to set your schedule up. Find a schedule for you. Since the London session starts at 2 a.m. The New York Tokyo session starts around 10 p.m. London 2 a.m. and then you have the New York session starts 8 a.m. So you can trade all 3 sessions. I done did that before, and I got maximized a lot more money because I'm trading through all 3 sessions. You don't have to do that. You can trade just one session. Pick a session that works for you. Whether it's 2 a.m., the Tokyo session, or the Tokyo session, the London session, or the New York session. Tokyo session 10 p.m., New York session 3 a.m. London session 3 a.m. Excuse me, New York session 8 a.m. So you pick a session that works for you. You need sleep to recharge your energy. You know what I'm saying? So definitely rest. Rest is very important. Every trader should learn when they should trade, what time is best for the fit for them. London is my best time. I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning trading. So every trader should know when to trade and when not to trade. So the best time to trade is when 2 sessions overlap, of course. These are the times when the major news events come to potential spark some volatility and direction movements. So, the Europe sessions tends to be the busiest out of all 3 sessions. The middle of the week typically shows the most momentum as the pip range widens for most of the major currency pairs. The worst time to trade is Sunday. Everyone's sleeping or enjoying their weekend. Friday, liquidity dies down during the later parts of the U.S. session. Holidays, everybody's taking a break and major news events. You don't want to get wiped out off a major news event. So when so wait until the next London session, instead. The next day. You can also do swing trades and position trades, where you trade for like 2 days. Like a week or 2 weeks. Some trades last that long. But we'll talk about that later. But again, that's about everything that you need to know as far as when can you trade and, when the best days to trade in the Forex market. So I hope this video helped, gang. It's your boy Nature, aka Nature. Gang.